Hello everyone, and thank you for making it this far. Lesson 1.1, lesson 1.2, and lesson 1.3 I'm sure have been very eye-opening for you. I know we kind of moved through each and every one of them. We had time to study each and every one of these. This video is less about checking your work and more about checking the retainment of knowledge. So we'll be doing lesson 1 exam as we will do all these exams as a group and together in this video. I highly encourage you to answer the questions on your own. I will give you that time and then at some point and then I will answer them in real-time feedback for you. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so question 1, choose the correct home type. With one of the defining features, one of the defining features are stucco and wood beam exteriors. Is that A, a colonial, B, a ranch, C, Victorian, or D, a Tudor? Please take some time now. I will give you 30 seconds to consult with yourself. Okay, so at the end of this, right, so what we're seeing here is, let's go each one line by line. All right, is it a colonial? No, it is not. It is not a colonial because colonials are not defined by exterior features. They're defined much differently, as you'll remember. Is it a ranch? No, it is not a ranch. Once again, a ranch is not defined by exterior features. Victorian. It is not a Victorian. One of the defining features of Victorian is structure, not exterior, which means Tudor is the correct answer. So if you got that correct, mark it down for yourself. Congratulations. Thank you so much. We'll move on to the next one. Alrighty, question number 2. Choose the correct home type. One of the defining features, I keep wanting to say that. One of the defining features are square footage between 800 and 1,000 square feet. Is it A, a bungalow, B, a ranch, C, a Cape Cod, or D, a tri-level? I will give you 30 seconds to answer for yourself. All right, so well, like last time and like all of our questions, we'll go right down the line. Is it a bungalow? Yes, it is a bungalow. If you chose bungalow, congratulations. It's between 800 and 1,000 square feet, or one of the defining features. Why is it not a ranch? Well, as you quite probably remember, a ranch is very similar to a bungalow, except for the size and structure. So a ranch is going to be more horizontal, and it's going to typically come between 1,200 to 3,000 square feet. More luxury ranches will be a lot more. They could be 3,500, 4,000 square feet on very, very large ranches. But bungalows, they are quite literally sitting in that 800 to 1,000 square foot range. Could you have a bungalow at 1,100? Yes, but then that walks the line of a ranch. A Cape Cod, it is not a Cape Cod because Cape Cods are two-story. So typically they have more square footage because of that half a two-story they have that goes up. And then it is not a tri-level because a tri-level is not defined by its square footage. Next question. Question number 3. Choose the correct home type. One of the defining features are an entranceway directly into a staircase. Is it A, colonial, B, bi-level, C, tri-level, or D, Victorian? I will give you 30 seconds starting now. Okay, so as always, we're going to go right down. Is it a colonial? No, it is not. Colonials are not defined by an entranceway directly to staircase. We discussed a little bit earlier how colonials are defined, and it is not this way. Is it a bi-level? Yes, it is. It is a bi-level. When you walk into a bi-level, you will walk directly into a staircase, one part of the staircase going up to your upper level and the other one going down to your lower level. You walk in the central part of the home. Is it a tri-level? Of course it is not. As we know, it is a bi-level at this point. Tri-level does have a staircase in the home, but it walks into the first floor. Remember, tri-levels are 1.5 story, first story, and then a half basement. That's what makes it a tri-level. And then the stairway is typically within the, once you walk in. Is it a Victorian? No, not even close. A Victorian is completely defined differently, and you walk in on the first level, very much like a colonial. All right, moving forward. All right, question number 4. Choose the correct answer. Which of the following is not considered a barrier for market area? I will give you 30 seconds starting now. All right, so is it a highway? No, it is not. A highway is considered a barrier for market area. Typically, highways they do have a lot of communities around them, but they create you're not going to create a subdivision with a highway running between it. So typically you'll have one set of properties on one side, another set of properties on another, which can very adversely affect your property. Same thing with a park. Park is not the correct answer here. A park, typically large enough, do define market area barriers. However, the caveat here, or you probably got mixed up if you did choose park, parks can be small, and parks within a community, parks within a small neighborhood are not the park we're discussing here. What we're talking about for parks are larger parks, maybe state parks, national parks, obviously national parks, or larger parks that take up a larger area. But if you remember from our training video on lesson 1.2, you'll remember that there is a park that we used as a barrier, which is why we bring it up here. C, is it a landmark building? Yes, a landmark building is the correct answer. A building is nowhere large enough. It'll never be large enough. No matter how big the building is, it'll never be big enough to create a market area barrier. Unless, of course, this building is the Great Wall of China. If you're thinking Great Wall of China, you are correct. It does create a market barrier between the Mongolians and the Chinese. However, in modern day times in U.S. residential history, a landmark building, no matter how landmarkish it is, will not define a market area or create a barrier. And a river, obviously, a river will create a market barrier almost every single time. Okay, question number 5. Choose the correct answer. Which of the following is a free resource I use to help? Which of the following is a free resource used to help define market area? Goodness. Is it A, the MLS, B, Google Satellite, C, Maps.com, or D, Realtor.com? I will give you 15 seconds to answer this question starting now. All right, I gave you a little bit shorter. This should be a quick response. It is not the MLS. The MLS is something that appraisal professionals like myself or real estate professionals in general utilize. It costs about, at least in my area, it costs $1,200 initially to start up. That's nowhere near free, and it's not something that the average day individual using valuations can do or utilize. However, it is not a Google satellite. Google satellites are great for helping try to find some barriers, but they can't help define market area in the sense that you don't understand. It doesn't give you real estate values, right? It doesn't give you, say, real estate values. It doesn't give you sold information or listed information. So it's very difficult to define a market area if all you have are physical boundaries, because sometimes physical boundaries aren't as defining as they may look on a map. Maps.com is not it. Once again, like Google Satellite, you're missing. You are missing that real estate information, residential information that you would need that is absolutely essential for defining a market area, which means D, Realtor.com is the correct answer here, because they, one, provide a map, and two, they allow you to customize that map. Three, they give you sold information as well as any other type of information that you might need to determine your market area. The other one missing from here is Zillow.com. I didn't put Zillow on here. Zillow is extremely popular, so I figured maybe you could utilize Realtor.com. But it is Zillow and Realtor, so as a little caveat, a little information. Let's move forward. Okay, question number 6. Choose the correct answer. Which of the following is the correct amount of time to search for sold properties in an urban area? Is it A, 90 days, B, 180 days, C, 1 year, or D, 2 years? I will give you 30 seconds starting now. Okay, so is it an A, 90 days? No, it is not. That's nowhere near the amount of time that you need. Some agents and some websites shockingly actually say you need to search for sold properties within the last 90 days, which is actually a step up from where other information I see where they say you need to use listed properties. That helps you define your market area or your scope. And I'm just like, that's no. You don't use listed properties, because that doesn't define what your market can sell for. And we'll talk about that later when we talk about CMAs in lesson 3. But there's some issues there. 90 days is nowhere near enough, right? 180 days. Is it 180 days? No. Once again, not even close. 180 days is only 6 months. Now, the market can move, and we'll talk about micro and macro markets once again in a later lesson, but 90 to 180 days, not enough time for a market to really show itself, even in an urban area. Even if the market was extremely hot, it's just not enough. C, is it 1 year? Yes, it is C. The correct answer is C, because 1 year is the minimum amount of time you need to really be able to find comparables. Markets are going to change within a year, so they're going to change within that year in the urban area. You don't do 2 years, so we're going to go to D. We do not do 2 years in urban areas because the market cycles faster. If you're in a rural area, not a rural, like say a rural town where you don't see as much sales, you might have larger properties. For example, you might have a property ranging in the 600,000 to 800,000 range with 15 to 20 acres. It could be a larger home. Those particular types of homes and comparables that could compare to that home are not selling as frequent. So you go back 2 years in rural. Now, if I'm in an urban area and I've got a big luxury home, even if it's $1 million home, but it's in a very dense urban area with a lot of other $1 million homes, you're still going to use a year because the market's moving faster. So what we see, a perfect example would be like New York City. New York City sells multi-million-dollar homes or condos and townhomes all over the place, and they might be extremely large, might be extremely expensive, but that's not what defines your area of time. You need to be like, okay, well, what moves? Now, in something like New York City, you can see real estate agents going, you want to use 90 to 180 days because the market moves so fast. That's not what an appraisal would do. That's not what we would do as a home valuator, right? You really want to give time to see that market develop, and you want to give time for you to develop your own comparables or comparable properties, so you can weight these properties accordingly. So let's say, for example, we have a home, your home is listed in, your subject property is listed in January, it's listed in December, the 12th month. And you have a comparable in October and 2 other comparables that sold in February of the earlier part of the year. Obviously, there's a huge gap. It's within the year. Those 2 February homes could represent a slightly different market than November, right? However, so what you would do, you can still use those February, but because of the time gap, you'd be able to weight them differently. But we'll talk about weighted values in another lesson. Just so you know, year for urban, 2 years for rural. Okay, question number 7. Choose the correct answer. Which of the following is the correct place to find dimensions of your subject property? I will give you 30 seconds starting now. Alrighty, so I apologize I didn't read them off to you. I'm trying to move this a little bit faster. Is it the county recorder's website? That is incorrect. The county recorder's website will record your description of property, your legal description of property, your transfer of sales in detail. It can give you some other information, but not where you're going to find dimensions for your subject property. Is it the city government website? No. City government website will not have anything for your property on that website. And if it does, it's typically how much taxes you owe. State auditor's website, close, but no cigar. It is not it. State auditors does a lot bigger things and typically a lot of different things. But the one you want is your county auditor's website. You'll be able to find your sketch, you'll be able to find tax information, you'll be able to find transfer information, you'll be able to find just about any and all information you want, the last appraisals, estimated appraisal price, where it last valued at as an appraisal. So this is typically a lot more useful when you look at commercial properties, but residential, you'll obviously for valuations and appraisals is different. So but your county auditor's website is the correct answer. Question number 8, choose the correct answer. What is the purpose of creating a sketch? Is it A, to show the layout, B, define the dimensions, C, to verify public data, or D, to have in case needed? Go ahead and start now. You have 30 seconds. Okay, so what is the purpose of creating a sketch? A, to show the layout. That is what it is. You don't need to find the dimensions on it like B says. To find the dimensions, that's not correct. Simply because you already have the dimensions from the county auditor's website. Do you need to verify public data? I mean, no, that's not your job. You're not verifying a layout from the sketch, right? So why would you need to verify a sketch or a sketch of the property, the layout of the property, like where the rooms are, when that's not already provided? So if there's not provided in the public data, then you can't verify it. To have in case needed, not accurate. You will need it. It's not in case you need it. You will need it. It's to show the layout. This ultimately helps defining your home type and defining other things. Simply put, if you have two colonials together, not just the home type itself, but two different home types could have two different layouts. And these layouts could be completely different. You could have one that's very compartmentalized and one that's extremely open. And now we're going to dip into, some lesson 3 stuff. However, if you find a bunch of comparables that, the compartmentalized colonials are selling for less than the open floor plan colonials, you'll be able to adjust for that properly. And you can only do that by then first creating a sketch of your own to really understand the layout compared to your comparables. Question number 9, and we just kind of went over this, but we'll do it again. Choose the correct answer. How does a sketch help in the valuation process? Is it A, it helps find closer comparable properties? B, it helps find square footage? C, it has no specific use outside general knowledge, typo there. And then D, it helps determine home type. I will give you 15 seconds as we just went over it. Right. It helps determine home type, D. It has no specific use outside general knowledge, not even close, right? Because we're not, obviously I wouldn't be teaching it to you here if it's just general knowledge. I'm not here to waste your time. B, it helps find square footage. We already know that we don't need to find square footage there because we can find that in the county auditor's website. So why do we need to do a sketch if there's a sketch of dimensions already? It helps find close comparable properties. No, close, but no. You're finding comparable properties. You already found them. Now you're trying to determine why they're worth more. This actually helps with adjustments. But once again, this is something that adjustments are something we're going to talk about later. But we can't even talk about those adjustments until you first understand, your home types, your sketches, and everything else. So, and your market area. Last but not least, we have choose the correct answer. What is the most important? What is the most important of lesson 1? Is it lesson 1.1, home types, lesson 1.2, defining market area, or lesson 1.3, sketches, or D, all 3 are equally important? This is a pretty obvious answer, so I will give you 10 seconds to answer this question. All right, I hope that was obvious for you. It was all 3 are equally important. If you define your home type, but you don't define your market area, then you're not going to be able to properly value your home. If you define your market area and you have a sketch, but you don't know what type of home it is, you're not going to be able to define or value your home. If you have a defining market area and a home type, but you don't have a sketch or layout, you're going to miss adjustments, and thus you're not going to be able to accurately define or value your home. So, once again, I want to thank you so much for participating in this lesson exam. I know it's, I'm not trying to make this difficult for you. I'm trying to make sure that you retain the knowledge that we already discussed. We've hit on it twice before we move on to lesson 2, because this information is going to build. So as we build our information, as we move it forward, you're going to build on top of it. By the end of this, by end of lesson 3, you'll be a fully functioning individual able to value a home as just as accurately as an appraiser would, in my opinion. So anyway, thank you so much, and I appreciate your time, and I'll see you in lesson 2.